Anglers worldwide, I'm Jabroni Joe, and you already know I'm back with another show. And in today's video, we are in the Joe Bro studio because it is a cold, windy Oklahoma day outside. Winds are reaching almost 30 miles an hour. The temperatures are a high of like 58, 59 degrees today. So I'm going to take it easy today and stay at home because the temperatures are supposed to come back up and winds are supposed to go down tomorrow. So we'll get out and do some fishing tomorrow. But since we have some time in the studio today, I figured I would come at you guys with my top 4 confidence baits that I throw when I want to catch a fish. You know, most of the time when I'm out fishing, I am trying to learn new stuff and become more confident with different baits and learn different techniques. But sometimes you just want to catch a fish. And when you do that, everyone has their stuff that they throw that makes them feel confident. That makes them feel like, I'm going to catch a fish if I throw this because I know exactly how to work this bait. And for me, there are 4 of them. Only 4 of them currently, which we need to expand. Now these baits are going to be ranked by how comfortable I am with them, meaning number 4 is the one I'm the least comfortable with, all the way up to number 1, which I'm most comfortable with. But these are the top 4. And in a future video, probably in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be talking about the top 5 baits I am most uncomfortable with that I want to get more comfortable with within this year. Alrighty guys, let's go ahead and get right into it with bait number 4 on my confidence list. Alright, rig number 4, bait number 4, lure number 4, whatever you want to say, is a setup that I have only become familiar with in the last year or so, but it has landed me lots of fish and some good fish. I just need to figure out how to work it a little bit more finessey. I feel like I overwork it sometimes, and that is the issue with this rig, is overworking it is really easy to do. And that is the Ned rig. Now when I throw the Ned rig, I pretty much only throw one color, and that is this. This is the Z-Man Original TRD, and it is in the Copper Truce color. That's half green pumpkin, half chartreuse, with some copper flake and some black flake in there. And I love the original Z-Man TRD products because they're super stretchy. If you know how to set this up on the right hook, then this will catch over 100 fish easily before you have to get rid of it and put on another one. So the pack of 8 or 6, whatever it is that you buy, really will last you forever. I'm not sure how Z-Man manages to stay in business doing that. Now I did say that this is currently the only color of the Ned rig worms that I throw, and that is because whether the water is murky, stained, clear, it doesn't matter. I've caught fish on this exact color. It is the perfect bait fish imitator, and yeah, I haven't really found a need to throw any other color up to this point. I do think I'm going to start throwing some other style of Z-Man plastics, like maybe some of the ticklers that have the little flappy doos or whatever, or some craws maybe, but I'm still going to stick to this color in the future. As far as the hooks that I use to rig my Ned rigs go, I've experimented and I'm still experimenting with finding exactly what I like, but I am currently using the Z-Man Finesse Bullets. It is an EWG style hook, obviously with the little jig head there, but what I like is that you can texpose the Z-Man TRD and make it weedless, because when I was using the traditional Ned hooks, I was getting snagged very often, even though my hookup ratio seemed to be a little bit better with that method. So I'm really still experimenting and trying to find exactly what I like for the hook selection on my Ned rig setup. Alrighty guys, next up, coming in at number 3 on my list of confidence baits is the only moving bait that is on this list, and that is the spinnerbait. Now, when I was a young fisherman, I threw spinnerbaits constantly, whether I caught a fish on them or not. I just loved, back when you're a little kid, I just loved casting, reeling, and whether or not I caught a fish didn't matter. I was not much of a finesse fisherman when I was younger. When I did start getting into finesse fishing and learning how to catch fish on Texas rigs and such like that, I did veer away from the spinnerbaits for a long time there. But this last season has really taught me that the spinnerbait has its place in the bass fishing arsenal, because I have caught a lot of fish here in the past few months, and a lot of really good fish in the past few months on a spinnerbait. And whether it's a willow leaf or a Colorado blade, it really doesn't matter. They have different applications, but the spinnerbait in general has worked its way up to one of my confidence baits within the last 6 months or so. And I really think, as far as moving baits go, it's going to be one of my go-tos from here on out. As far as rigging my spinnerbaits go, I throw them all kinds of ways. I'll throw them raw with no trailer whatsoever, no trailer hook. I very rarely use a trailer hook. But I will use a regular soft plastic trailer, or I'll throw on, like a little swim bait, like a Kitech or something like that. Or if they're biting, you can see here, they're biting the red craw this time of year, so I took a Strike King Rage Craw and just took off one of its fins so it makes like a makeshift kind of paddle tail. And I've caught fish on this setup as well. So whether I use a trailer or don't use a trailer, the spinnerbait can be thrown either way and it will catch some really good fish. Alrighty guys, moving on to number 2 on my top confidence baits list, and that is the good old Senko. I love throwing Senkos. The first soft plastic I ever caught a fish on was on a weightless Texas rig Senko. I found a ditch of water, literally like an overpass of water, and I skipped the Senko up in there and caught 2 bass that were roughly 2 pounds a piece. And that was the first time I'd ever caught a fish on a soft plastic. And it completely changed the game of fishing for me. I started fishing soft plastics a lot after that, and I really started to understand how they worked after that. And I just can't express enough how much the Senko changed the game for me. Now, my personal favorite brand of soft plastics in general is Big Bite Baits, but I especially love their Senkos. This right here is a Big Bite Bait Senko. It is they call theirs the Trick Stick. This is a 5-inch Trick Stick. This is in watermelon candy color, so it's, the watermelon color. Got some black flakes, some green flake, and some purple flake in there. This is one of my confidence colors. Like, out of all the colors I throw, I'm throwing watermelon candy, black with blue flake, and pretty much June bug, I would say, the most, are the colors that I throw the most here in Oklahoma. And what I love about the Big Bite Baits Senkos or Trick Sticks is they have this little pocket right here. I'm not sure if you can see that very well, but it's like a little slit right there in the egg sac, so that if you're doing a weightless Texas rig, it has a perfect pocket for that hook point to set into. You don't even have to actually put it into the plastic. So fish bites on it and boom, you've got a good hook set almost every single time. So yeah guys, the soft plastic Senko, mainly the ones that are made by Big Bite Baits, absolutely my number 2 confidence bait. I'm normally going to rig these weightless with one of 2 types of hooks. I'm either going to go with a wacky rig, which is with this hook. I believe this is like a number 2 or maybe a 1/0 octopus hook by Gamakatsu. Or I'll just take a 3/0 or 4/0 EWG hook and do a weightless Texas rig, so that it's weedless as well. And it really just kind of depends on where I'm fishing. If I'm fishing with a lot of snags, I'm not going to go wacky rig, I'm going to go Texas rig. But if I'm fishing with a lot of open water, maybe some grass, I'll go ahead and do the wacky rig for the better action that the bait can provide. And finally guys, we have made it to my number 1 confidence bait. If I am out fishing and I want to catch a fish, this is the first bait I'm going to rig up. And that is a Texas rigged creature bait. 100%. If I've got a Texas rig creature bait tied on, I'm pretty sure I'm going to land at least 1 fish that day, unless there is absolutely horrid conditions to fish in. Now, I have to be very specific here. It is 100%. It has to be a creature bait, and we will talk about that in the next video when I talk about baits I'm not confident with. that is when we will get into things like worms and all of that. But the Texas rig creature bait is one of my absolute, I say one of my absolute, it is my absolute favorite bait to throw if I'm looking to catch a fish. And I'm going to go over real quick what hook I use and some of my favorite creature baits. Alrighty guys, so more often than not, I'm going to use a 3/0 or 4/0 EWG hook to rig up all of my Texas rigs. Sometimes I'll use a 2/0 or go up to a 5/0. It just depends on the application. But if I'm using just a general Texas rig, a 4/0 is usually about what I'm going for. The weight, as you know, is going to depend on the depth of the water and how much the wind is blowing that day. But I would say 90% of the time I throw a 1/4 ounce tungsten worm weight with my Texas rig. And I don't peg it very often. I only peg them if I'm literally flipping into cover, which is going to be another subject that I cover in the future, because a lot of people will be like, if you're using a peg Texas rig to flip into cover, why not use a jig? I will talk about that in the future. Anyway guys, let's get right into some of my absolute favorite creature baits. Sticking with the theme of how much I love the company Big Bite Baits, the Big Bite Baits BFE is one of my favorite soft plastics. The BFE stands for the best flipper ever because it's got that beaver style paddle tail for flipping right into stuff. This one's in black and blue flake. I've also bought them in a couple of other different colors. They're very durable. They have an absolute amazing scent, and they catch really, really good fish and big fish. It can be used as a jig trailer or as a Texas rig. I prefer it as a Texas rig, but it is an absolute awesome bait. One of my absolute favorites. Moving on, I also am a huge fan of the Zoom Ultra Vibe Speed Craw. I like the small profile craw because a lot of companies make these really big craws. And having a smaller craw, I feel like, gets me a lot more bites because the smaller fish, yeah, everyone's chasing big fish nowadays. I get it. But if you want to just go out and catch a fish, a small profile craw will get you a small fish, and you caught yourself a fish. So that will definitely work. This is in the watermelon candy color that I've already mentioned is one of my favorite colors, and I would say Zoom is my second favorite soft plastic company. So it's pretty much Big Bite Baits, then Zoom, then probably Z-Man, but like only because Z-Man makes all of the best Ned rig stuff. That's really about it. Moving right along, another one of my favorite creature baits. This is probably my top creature bait of all time. That is the Zoom Brush Hog. This right here is a mid-size brush hog. They come in a variety of sizes. You have the baby brush hog, the mid-size, and the full size, which I have at least one pack of all three. The big ones are definitely big brush hogs. That's if you're chasing a mondo. These mid-size ones are good for chasing your average size bass, and the baby ones are good for if you need that kind of smaller profile. I would say I throw the baby brush hogs more often than any of them, but these mid-size brush hogs have really worked their way into my arsenal. This is once again watermelon candy color. Like I said, it's one of my favorite colors. And yeah, absolutely, the Zoom Brush Hog, my favorite creature bait of all time. A couple of other baits that I just don't currently have on me besides the BFE, the Zoom Ultra Vibe Craw, and the Brush Hog are the Guggen Baits Bandito Bug. I've caught plenty of great fish on the Bandito Bug. Black with blue flake is one of my favorite colors in that bait. And the Strike King Rage Craw, which you saw as a trailer on my spinnerbait. I love those Rage Craws. They're really good. It's a perfect profile. Nice long, big claws. They're just the perfect upgrade size from the Ultra Vibe Craw. My only issue with them is I'm not a fan of the coffee scent. I really think that they could find a better scent to infuse with it. But I catch fish on it with the coffee scent, so who am I really to judge? Alrighty guys, that's going to wrap up today's video. Be sure to smash like down below and drop a comment. Let me know what your #1 confidence bait is. What is the bait that you throw when you feel like you need to catch a fish and you know this bait is going to do it for you? We're probably going to be having some more episodes throughout the midweek coming in that are in the studio, where I'm going to be talking about some baits that I'm confident in, some baits I'm not confident in, some baits that I want to get confident in, and maybe even some baits that I have a love-hate relationship with. But until then, you just have to stay tuned until the next video. And remember, If it ain't Joe, it's gotta go. Angler out.